Hello guys, how are you all doing? This is Rob of Ro2R Review. Welcome back to the channel, and yes, I am back from vacation, which feels so fantastic. My girlfriend and I had a great time going back home to Denver, but now it's time to get back to talking about some video games. So of course, by the title of this video, you could tell that we are again talking about Metroid. Surprise, surprise. And honestly, over this last weekend and even throughout the day so far today, I really haven't seen anything that's huge news or anything I feel I need to talk about that's more on like the relevant spectrum of brand new breaking stuff that would be interesting to talk about. And that's okay, that stuff happens. And so instead I figured I would make a follow-up to my last video, which of course was about Metroid Prime 4, the Game Awards, whether or not Nintendo maybe made a mistake or didn't make a mistake by not showing Metroid at the Game Awards the way a lot of people, myself included, kind of expected them to do. Now, in that video, I kind of went over some of the reasons why it makes sense that a lot of people are perceiving it as a mistake that Nintendo chose not to have Metroid Prime 4, the trilogy, or whatever at the Game Awards, because I do certainly understand that. But, you know, I shared my opinion that ultimately, I overall think that it was fine. And while disappointing, it's not the end of the world that we haven't seen Metroid yet, and I don't necessarily think that Nintendo did make a mistake by not showing it at the Game Awards, because I think that Nintendo has a very calculated plan for this game, and whenever they show it, it's going to end up being so good, the game will just sell itself, and even though they didn't show it at the Game Awards to so many people, I still think that at the end of the day, everything in the Metroid Prime 4 world is going to be fine once Nintendo pulls that veil back. But, like I said, today's video and today's conversation really is kind of a continuation of that idea. Because, again, as the title of this video suggests, what I want to discuss is whether or not Nintendo maybe made a different mistake by possibly showing Metroid Prime 4 too early. Of course, by showing Metroid Prime 4, what I mean was basically just revealing and confirming the game and giving us that 40-second little image of basically just the logo for the game. Now, basically a year and a half ago. That was a long time ago, you guys. That was last E3, so last June. And so that is them revealing to the world that, hey, Metroid Prime 4 is a game, and we're making it, and we're just going to tell you more about it soon. Over the last year and a half, a lot of people have gone on the speculation circuit, obviously myself included. I spend a lot of time talking about Metroid Prime 4 on this channel here. And a lot of people have gone back and forth on if they thought that Nintendo maybe had the game ready to go, and they were just kind of teasing us and faking it, making it seem like the game was in early development, when in fact we were going to see the game within the next year. Other people, which definitely was myself, thought that, no, I feel like Nintendo didn't have anything to show because the game is early in development, and we're not going to see it till 2019, or maybe even later. And so far, that seems to be true, because obviously the game turned out to not be a 2018 game. It's obviously going to be 2019, and now it might even be looking like the game is coming even after that, possibly 2020, which is crazy to think about, but at this point, basically all bets are off, and they could be doing anything they want with that game. But it does seem to show us that, yeah, Nintendo was obviously in the early stages of making this game when they showed us that logo at E3 last year. They weren't keeping it a secret that they'd been making it for years prior. They probably had just began that game. And so that kind of brings us to today. Now here's the thing, guys. I'm going to tell you why I wanted to make this video and frame it the way I did with the question of, you know, did Nintendo make a mistake by showing it too early, or however I end up phrasing that. And you guys know, almost all of my videos are question-based. I pose the question to myself, I pose it to you guys, and I discuss my feelings and answers and yada yada. This one is really hard for me because, to tell you the truth, I don't know if I have my own personal answer on whether or not Nintendo showed Metroid Prime 4 too early or not. I think that there's many reasons to believe that they showed it too early. I think that there's many reasons to believe that they showed it because they felt that it was the right time and a smart business move, and it was giving us a promise for games for the far future. And I've actually discussed this in many videos over the last year. I actually am somebody who likes the fact that Nintendo has started to do that a little bit. We all know that the typical Nintendo business model is to show and preview and reveal games that are honestly pretty close to being completed and close to being released. And for the most part, that is awesome. That's actually one of the best things about Nintendo. It is one of their strongest qualities. And so I don't want to necessarily say that what they chose to do with Metroid is bad just because it's not that. It's more that seeing them change things up a little bit for the reveal of a huge game like Metroid Prime 4, I think is a nice change of pace. In the Switch era, one of the coolest things about Nintendo is how they've changed their game plans and their marketing and their approach to making games, to what the Switch is just as a console, to how they're sharing information, such as previewing games really early, for example. They did it with Fire Emblem, they did it with Metroid Prime 4, they did it with Pokemon, you know? And I actually am, and I know many people may disagree with this, but even though we love the fact that they show games close to completion, I like the fact that nowadays they're willing to take that gamble and give us that promise of future games. I think that that's actually really smart. And so that's where I come back to the nature of this question and whether or not I feel like this was a mistake or not, or whatever my own personal opinion is. And that's where I think the best way I can answer it for this video and kind of, you know, sort of reconcile the whole idea in my own brain for just my own personal beliefs and desires is basically this. Do I think it was a mistake for myself? I'm going to say no. Ultimately, I am totally okay with the fact that we saw this game a year and a half ago and still haven't seen or heard anything concrete on it yet. Even though it's really hard and frustrating and aggravating and I'm just dying inside with wanting to see this game and actually be able to play it soon, I ultimately can be okay, and I'm just happy to be excited about this game coming in the future. Do I, however, think that it's maybe a mistake for the larger picture and the larger gaming audience? I think that I can say kind of yeah, mostly because I know that so many people are upset about this and they're dying for this game and they're starting to feel frustrated with the fact that Nintendo showed us this game so long ago and have, like I just said, given us literally nothing in a year and a half since showing us that darn logo. It's tricky because I think for the most part, the rest of the gaming industry, everyone who's not a Nintendo company, kind of gets a pass as far as doing stuff like this, showing games really early in development. And then, you know, they keep showing previews, and they keep showing demos, and they keep coming back at E3, and it takes forever, and they get delayed and delayed. Sony, of course, is one of the worst offenders of this. They make some of the greatest games, don't get me wrong, but they show games years before they're ready. And while it does make people angry and upset, and we can all make fun of Sony and other companies for doing this, Square is another big offender as well, of course. You know, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 15. While people can be kind of angry and we all make fun of them, at the end of the day, I think that it's something that we've all just learned to accept, that that's how they do it. And it's dumb, but at least the games, for the most part, tend to release eventually. And for the most part, tend to also be great. And so when you look at Nintendo, it's almost like people have shown that they're not yet ready to give Nintendo that same sort of comfort to be able to show a game really early, like a Prime 4 and a Fire Emblem and whatnot, and then just kind of make us wait. And I am somebody, which is what leads me to kind of my difficulty here in making my own opinion, I'm somebody that sees both sides, and I really can be okay with it. I mean, okay, hey, we look at Metroid Prime 4, and just for myself as a Metroid superfan, and with the first Prime being my favorite game of all time, I'm just so thankful and happy to be living in a world where Metroid Prime 4 is even being made, you guys, and it's coming out on the Switch, like the coolest console, and I'm going to be able to play a brand new Metroid Prime experience that I never expected I would have 10 years ago. I'm going to be able to play it portably if I want, as well as on my TV, and I know it's going to be gorgeous, and I know it's going to be fun and huge and awesome. And so, I mean, yeah, I have human emotions, so I can be frustrated that we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm starting to get tired of the fact that we haven't seen the game, and all signs pointed to it showing up at the Game Awards, and it didn't show up. And so, yeah, I'm really sad about this, but it's like, hey, man, I cannot take for granted the fact that we're even getting a new Metroid game, you know? As I discussed on a video recently as well, for a while it almost seemed like the future of Metroid was in jeopardy, you know, leading up to the reveal of Federation Force, and then, of course, the year after when the game came out and everyone was all down on it, and it just seemed like, what are they doing? Where is Samus? Does Nintendo not understand or care about Metroid again? But now, we've had Samus Returns, which is incredible, and Metroid Prime 4 on the way. And so it's like, I have the ability to kind of separate these two parts of my brain, the part of my brain that's really frustrated and the part of my brain that's excited and thankful to know the game is being made, and so that's why I can kind of still be okay. But hey, man, at the end of the day, I'm still a fan, I'm still a gamer, and I'm still a Metroid super fan, so I understand the huge conglomerate of people out there that are struggling with the fact that Nintendo showed us this game so long ago, and they kind of broke their tradition and have decided to just make us wait and wait and wait and wait and theorize and rumor and speculate and leak and whatever we want to call these things, you know, because again, Nintendo, and I said this, Nintendo never really gave us reason like an official reason, I should say, to believe that Metroid was going to be at the Game Awards. There were signs and there were hints and there was some behind the scenes talk from people who tend to know things behind the scenes, I'll say. And so the fact that it didn't show up isn't really Nintendo's fault, but it's just one of those things where people are so used to how Nintendo usually does stuff that I understand why people are upset. And it's why, while I can say for me, it's not a mistake to have shown the game so early, I see why a lot of people might say that. And so maybe for those people, I would say, yes, it was a mistake, because people are struggling with this. People are getting upset at Nintendo, whether it's justified or it's not justified. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about what is happening. And what is happening is some people are just kind of getting frustrated with Nintendo. And so maybe it wasn't the best idea from like that PR perspective, because the diehard Nintendo fan is really struggling to kind of know what to do here. They're like, what's going on? Where's this game? Nintendo, what are you doing? Why are you making us wait and wait and wait and wait? Just because I can accept it and be totally cool letting Nintendo do whatever they need to make this game the best it's going to be and make the reveal the most exciting it possibly can be, which I believe it all ultimately will. I know that that's what's happening with other people, and they're just like, this is dumb, we're upset, show us Metroid, and they're not entirely wrong if that's their opinion, or if it's even your opinion, whatever you think. It's justifiable. I get where people are coming from, and this is why, like I said, it's hard for me to have a definitive answer, and why talking about it on this video was hopefully not going to be only entertaining for you guys, but also helpful for me, like my own personal therapy, to kind of get my ideas about this out and kind of find out where I do land. And I think that this is ultimately my true final answer, and how I feel is I'm okay with it. I can deal with it, but I see why it's a problem for other people. So it wasn't a mistake for me to show it early, but maybe it was a mistake for the larger gaming community. And so, hey, I don't know, man. I'm just a guy. I'm a Metroid fan trying to figure my place out in this world and trying to figure out what's going on with Nintendo and Metroid Prime 4. So this was a hard video to try to make and try to answer the question for like the larger gaming community and the larger Metroid fan community. This was about trying to figure out how I feel, and like I said, giving you guys some kind of perspectives and angles to think about this, because I think a lot of people have a lot of different opinions and feelings on how and when Nintendo decided to reveal Metroid Prime 4, and I don't think that any opinion is really invalid, provided you aren't being like kind of really mean and crappy and rude, you know, and just being like a total jerk to people or whatever, which I haven't really seen much of, to be fair, which is a good thing. And so provided you're not being that, and you're just a normal person who's like, hey, Nintendo, this is dumb and annoying. Why did you show this game so early if it wasn't ready? I get you. I'm just trying to say I get you and I feel you. But hey, like I said, I'm a thankful Metroid fan. To me, every single new game and new Metroid game and any game that I enjoy in this hobby is just a net gain for my life, because otherwise I wouldn't have these things. I wouldn't have a Metroid franchise. I wouldn't have a Metroid Prime 4. I wouldn't have a Nintendo Switch or an Xbox or a PlayStation. So to me, it's just all new things that I get to just accept and enjoy for fun and break up the monotony of everyday adult life, you know? And so these are my opinions. That's the closest answer I could get to answering this question today, guys, on whether or not Nintendo did show Metroid Prime 4 too early or not. So, of course, here's the time where I want to hear from you guys. I know you guys will have very strong opinions on this. Like I said, no opinion is wrong. I just want to hear from you guys, and maybe we can all gauge how the community at large is feeling about what Nintendo chose to do here, changing their normal strategy by showing a game really early in development, way before they were going to be ready to reveal it. I bet we're going to come up on close to 2 years from announcement to gameplay reveal. I truly think we're going to get to that point. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. Those are my answers to this question. What do you guys think? Talk about Metroid Prime 4 below. And that is it for me today. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.